Before we begin the episode, John Wentz is releasing his first online video workshop, The Deconstructed Portrait in Oils, through No Wave Academy. The workshop is being released on March 31st. Go to nowaveacademy.com, that's nohwaveacademy.com. Use offer code ADWENTZ25, all caps, at checkout for $25 off your purchase. Now, on to the episode. Hey everyone, welcome to the program. This is your host Yoshino, and you're listening to episode 116 of Artist Decoded with painter John Wentz. And I met John back in 2015. We met at his home in Northern California when I first started the podcast, and he was actually episode number 2 when I didn't really know what I was doing, and I still feel like I don't know what I'm doing, but for some reason I keep on doing it because it's fun to talk to all these inspiring artists and whatnot. But yeah, we had a really great conversation, and he flew out from Paris actually for this conversation. Well, not really just this conversation, but he flew out from Paris for his show in San Francisco at Hashimoto Contemporary entitled The Death of Distance. And we talk about him moving to Paris and how that's changed his perspective and his approach, and also how he's created a certain kind of body of work out there. We talked a lot about films as well in this episode, which naturally came about because John and I are pseudo film buffs, or at least I would think that we are. But there was a really interesting thing that was brought up in this conversation about the artist Chuck Close. John was telling me that he heard an interview with Chuck Close, and the interviewer asked him, if there were no people left, would you still create art? And this question kind of, for lack of a better term, messed me up for a while. I kind of went into this existential sort of spiral of thought, not really in a bad way at all, but it just made me think, yeah, I mean, it takes this idea of the ego and ourself, and, it's why do you actually do the things that you do, and why, whether it be art or another creative form, why do you pursue the things that you do, and what is the intention behind the thing that you do? And I think it's good to examine that and to open it up and to figure out the reason and the intention and the need and the want and what drives and motivates you to do these things, because that'll further inform your process as it further informs mine. So that was a really inspiring question for me. And we just talk about a lot of different subjects in this, and hopefully you find it interesting. Before we begin the episode, Artist Decoded is now sponsored by Four Sigmatic. And if you've never heard of Four Sigmatic, they are a mushroom elixir brand. And, I've recently been drinking Four Sigmatic's ground mushroom coffee mix with lion's mane and chaga. Recently, I've been taking lion's mane for about 5 to 6 months now to see how it would help my cognitive functioning. And I actually originally started taking lion's mane because my family has a higher genetic propensity for contracting Alzheimer's, which, to me is really scary. And I learned that lion's mane is a mushroom that has 2 chemical compounds called erinacines and hericinones. These chemical compounds regenerate myelin on the axons of nerves. Studies have shown, and you should definitely do your research for yourself, but taking lion's mane daily can help prevent dementia, as well as many other medicinal benefits that it has. I personally use this as a preventative measure for Alzheimer's and to reduce inflammation for the physical activity I do, including weightlifting and martial arts. But on the whole, I really think that Four Sigmatic is doing a really beneficial thing for a lot of people's health. And these mushrooms, chaga, lion's mane, cordyceps, have all been proven to have many different cognitive and physical health benefits as well. So if you'd like to purchase products from Four Sigmatic, go to foursigmatic.com/artists artist-decoded. Use discount code artist-decoded, all caps, at checkout for $15 off of your order. Also, before I forget, but please go to our iTunes page and leave us a review. It helps for people just like yourself to find out about this podcast. So here it is, my conversation with painter and my good friend, John Wentz, on Artist Decoded. Hope you enjoy.
Hey, buddy.
Hey. Hey. Good to see you.
Good to see you, man.
Yeah, good to see you. I haven't seen you in, let's see. Well, I just saw you. I'm seeing you right now.
But before a couple days ago. How long has it been? Like, seriously, I forgot. 3 years?
Since
4
I've
years?
seen you.
2015, was it?
But didn't I see you anytime between
Well, I'm just thinking
time?
that conversation. No, I don't think so.
That was the first and last.
No, we talked a bunch, but I don't think we...
Oh, interesting.
No, literally, the last time
Yeah.
I saw you, I think, was I did a guest interview, and we went to the city, remember, with Seamus.
That's true.
I
That
think
was
that
in
was the last time we hung out.
2016.
Okay, so that was the last time we hung out, and then like 2015 was when we did the first interview.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I forgot about that. The Seamus one.
Good old, that was a classic.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a
He had
classic.
a street name for a little bit, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, for street art.
Yeah, he did like one street art piece, and its name was something one or something like that.
That's awesome.
And then and then he stopped after that.
Yeah, Seamus is a good guy. I still talk to him every once in a while.
Oh, do you?
I do, yeah.
I talked to him the other day.
Yeah.
He slid into my DMs.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's a wreck.
Among other artists.
The what?
I said among other artists.
Among other artists. Who, him? He's always sliding into DMs?
Yeah, exactly.
Shady guy.
Yeah. But yeah, it's been since 2015. What do we even talk about on that podcast? Let's see. I remember we brought up Ex Machina.
Talked about movies, which we just did all last night.
Yeah. I might have to go shotgun movies afterwards.
What? What?
Well, I might have to shotgun question movies with you afterwards.
Let's just talk movies the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was most like you were talking about starting out and like I remember just complaining about like hours that I put into painting and stuff like that.
Really?
I think so.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Actually, you know what's interesting about that last podcast is that when I did this Mindwave 1 episode and then you listened to it and then you told me about what you said about Gerhard Richter going to his retrospective and how that influenced your painting or influenced the way that when you were in art school that you actually didn't quit art school because you went to the retrospective.
Yeah, and what was it that you said in that?
Well, it was
'cause you
actually
brought up
what
my name.
you said.
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
It was a little inception. You
Yeah.
brought up what I said, and in the moment I listened to that podcast, I was thinking about giving up, and you bringing up what I said back then convinced me now not to. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. But
It's
what
all
did?
time travel.
Why did you? I mean, I guess what were you going through to where you would want to give up recently?
I think it's just it's cumulative and I don't think I'm the only one that goes through it. I'd hope not, but I don't know. Just you get to these points where you think you should be better than you are. You think you should be more accomplished than you are. You know, these narratives that you've tell yourself or set for yourself, and then look at where you're at, and those don't match up. So it becomes very discouraging. So it was just one of those things. I was, didn't, even though I was working for the show that I just had, I was like, man, I just feel like my work should be better than it is, and I'm not where I want to be, and all these things. So maybe it's time to hang up the brushes, and I think that happens once a year, maybe.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
And just dissatisfied. And I think a lot of things play into it. I mean, the oversaturation of art right now, maybe looking at too much art, too much social media, like all these things, even though I wasn't that much because I've been in Paris, but all those. And then,
it could be just looking at what other people are doing on Instagram too.
Well, that's what I'm saying though. I wasn't really at the time much because in Paris, I'm not really on social media that much.
Yeah, that's right.
But maybe I just started looking at it again.
Yeah.
Oh no, I did. That's right. Because that's when I came back here to get my visa. And I listened to that episode, I think, when I was going for a run or something. Yeah, so it was here. So I did start looking at a bit social media again. But yeah, so it's funny, that story that saved me before it kind of did again.
Yeah, I always find it really interesting where, although there's so much information and there's so much information out there, that we have to have these constant, if not daily reminders sometimes of, just what we want to do or what we want to accomplish, or that, when you were talking about the Gerhard Richter retrospective, it's more about like the long term and having like a longevity with yourself as an artist, right?
Yeah, that and the longevity really, it was that idea that it's a life commitment, not to be too concerned with what's happening now, this month, or even next year.
Yeah.
But it's a more of a journey. And it always reminds me, like, the thing that really kind of blew my mind about that was the amount of creativity. So it's the potential, like things are going to change. You have so much more ahead of you that you're probably going to make. All that, I don't know why, it becomes really rejuvenating.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I mean, even we were talking about this at the art store earlier about just, there's some times where either something that you make accidentally, or it has like some sort of baked in audience, and you accidentally kind of come to this sort of conclusion because of timing.
Oh yeah,
in terms of like popularity, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think that's true because, if there were, let's say, street art that became popular maybe 10 years ago, but that street artist created that same art back in, maybe the early 1900s, for instance, it just wouldn't actually, who knows? That might be interesting because then that might change the course of history. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that timing is crucial to the way things play out, and it's not so easy as all of these hours that are accumulated that I put into this project will have a direct payoff.
Right. Yeah, you don't know. And again, but also I think you have to define what's your payoff, and I think that's the main thing there as well. Like, what is
how do you
payoff?
Define that though?
I think that's what gets me in trouble is I like when that particular thing happened, my payoff, I think I was just thinking like, money wise, like sales, and that is completely absurd. But it's hard not to get into that because, this year, well, it's been the last couple of years, and who knows why. A lot of people say because the administration changed that art sales have gone down, but everybody has seen rough times, including myself. And I think it's natural for most people, the first thing you do is blame that on yourself. My work's not as good, this and that. And that becomes like these glasses you put on, and everything you look at has that. So it wasn't like, how am I wording this? I just became very self-critical. Just being like, okay, I thought I was doing what I wanted to do. Maybe this isn't it. And you go down this rabbit hole.
Of course.
So I had to redefine, or not redefine, just remind myself really what's the payoff for me. The payoff, and what I think, again, going back to that show, what reminded me is like, it's just about the creating things. The whole exploration, having, at the end of the year, this big body of work that, you made and it didn't come from anywhere else. Those should be the biggest payoffs.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's hard to remind ourselves of those things, especially because, being a painter, specifically, painting is a classical medium, and so it's hard to tell like the trajectory in the future of how painting will exist or be influenced by the change of times, and also by this sort of technological revolution that we're in, right?
And not just in terms of, I think it's affecting everything with the tech. It's the type of art that's being made, how the art's being viewed, how people view their own art, down to, I promised myself going in this, I didn't want to talk about social media too much, but that's become a metric, how people value their art, or, it's
or how people create art too.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it's infiltrated in more ways than one, but yeah, the big chasm, I think, is without the bridge right now, is that appreciation. The only crossover that seems to be is with tech companies having artists do murals. Like, that's their bridge to the artist community, and it needs to be something more than that.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a tough one. And it's sad because I feel like that's as of right now, the only thing you can see that's really going to help it flourish again, because you need those patrons, you need the people buying art in order for the art to be made. So wherever that money is, I think that's the key thing to bridge, is with the tech crowd.
Yeah.
Getting them to appreciate art that goes on walls, not just in their offices. And I think that, it's funny now I'm saying that really says something about that tech mentality, that the only art they're getting is in their offices.
Yeah.
So
what do you think that says?
It shows where they're putting importance.
Yeah.
It's in the entity of their whatever corporation or whatever. In Facebook, they're hiring artists like that's their, or Google, they're saying like, we support the arts because we're having one artist come in and do a big mural. But nobody, in those tech offices goes home to, any of that art on their walls probably.
Yeah.
So.
Well, like I was telling you, I've seen it more so within people that work in art departments for these tech companies.
Right. Yeah. That's different for sure.
Yeah. That's different. But I mean, people buy things that they appreciate, right?
Yeah. And
So.
it could be too. I mean, I wonder if painting is just starting to run its course. It's got to die sometime. It's been around for 80,000 years or so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sooner or later, it's got to die.
Yeah.
So maybe it's just, this is like the death rattle.
I don't know.
I mean, things aren't that bad, but I mean, maybe it is. Maybe it's like over the hill and now it's going downhill.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's going to happen sooner or later. I mean, people look at screens more than they do books. And I know for me, that's what got me interested. It was that paper. And then, with comic books, that tactile thing. And that translated very nicely to making art. So then you grab a paper and you draw. So I wonder how much of that makes a difference if you're growing up with an iPad. And, you're going to do some kind of computer thing. You're not going to make.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, traditional art.
So then why continue to paint?
It's a good question. I don't know. I don't have a good answer. I think
It keeps drawing you back.
Yeah, I constantly come back to that, and I kind of am getting tired of it myself. I keep going these roundabouts of why I continue to paint, and it's always a different solution for me. Because I think I talked about that before too. Like the first time I had an interview, like during school I wanted to quit. Then right after school I wanted to quit because it seemed so superfluous. Like there's real issues in the world, and then you spend all this money and time being an artist, and like, what good does that do? Which though does translate. Okay, this thought's gonna have two roads, because I answer that partly now for myself by starting to do. So I'm living in Paris now, and I'm starting to do like outdoor work again, mural work, and that worked for me before. Because I think when I look back at when I start questioning why paint, I have to look at all kinds of different angles. It's not just the painting itself, but also this whole idea, who gets to see it? Galleries. I think there's still a weird barrier between the public and a gallery. I still meet people who think like you have to pay to go into a gallery, or they're intimidated. And I understand that intimidation. So doing mural work, I think that idea of just putting it out there, and people outside get to see the process, they get to see the finished thing, and then at the end of the day it's there for them, is a very rewarding thing.
Museums have inherently some sort of like isolating what's it called, there's a certain amount of pretentiousness that
hugely
is at play when you talk about a museum or even going to a museum.
Well, the cost too. I mean, it's not just that, and then it's cost. There's so many things we're battling. Like you look at, even I have to weigh this out as an artist. The MoMA might have an exhibit I want to see for $25, but Avengers 4 is coming out for $12. Maybe I'll go see that instead.
Yeah.
Well, no, I'll go to the museum. But I understand that thing. Still, it's like that's much more exciting to most people. It's like you sit on your ass and shovel popcorn into your food hole and just watch things explode for 2 hours. It's way more exciting than walking around a museum slowly and you're tired, and and you see how museums are battling that. You gotta I think the Broad did. We were talking about that this morning. What was that in? How long did they exhibit? 4 years or something. Well, not just the exhibit, but their approach. Like they really encouraging. Like they were one of the first that I'd seen that really encouraged the use of social media in the museum. Like they encouraged it, taking selfies with paintings like this and that. I mean, yeah, I don't like the idea of it, but people are who they are and society is what it is. And that's how it is now.
Mm-hmm. To just kind of embrace the fact that this is going to happen. So might as well use people's promotion because they're already going to be doing it.
Yeah. You have two choices with these things. Either you embrace it or you reject it. You know, I don't think it with a lot of these things, there's much of an in between, you know, so they completely embraced it. And I feel like it's done well for them. But there was other things, like I was telling that story this morning of one of their docents. Like, I don't know how they're, you know, what they say to their docents when they hire them or train them or whatever. But I had heard that they were encouraged to talk to people more than just, you know, get away from the painting. And I told you I had that experience where some guys looking at a Cy Twombly and they're the classic, just like, oh, I could do that. And she actually stepped forward and addressed this guy and was talking to him. And she's like, maybe you can. And maybe that means you're a great artist, and had a dialogue. And he actually kind of had to stop and think for a second about it. Like, more interaction, I think maybe it comes down to, is going to be something that gets people, you know, to museums. And maybe that's the way we need to approach even smaller gallery shows. You know, I mean, you guys are doing really interesting things.
I mean, we were talking about it when I first picked you up about figuring out and finding, like, really questioning different mediums and figuring out what works and what doesn't work. And, you know, even whether it's like a gallery show, like, how does that work? How is that structured? And then figuring out how, okay, so these video workshops, like, how can we put our minds together and our approach to make this something that is palpable for people? And, you know, and I think it's really about fluidity and trying to figure out different ways to where you can, well, first of all, sustain it, you know, monetarily. So you have to think about that to keep on going, because for me, at least, I don't want to constantly be thinking about the next paycheck, and working specifically for that, because that takes away the creative energy to be able to do these other things that could potentially, like, benefit people, you know, and benefit yourself in return. So I don't know. I think sometimes it's twofold, because it's broadening in the macro, broadening the perspective, but also reducing and understanding it, what you should focus on and why you should focus on. So it's the intention, but it's also, I guess it's the intention and questioning.
Right. Okay. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Agreed.
What's been inspiring for you recently after the show that you just did?
Tacos.
And yet we haven't, actually, we did have tacos the other day.
You haven't asked about Paris yet.
I haven't asked about Paris yet.
Inspiring after, but what do you mean? Like, in what way? I mean, it's only been a week after the show. Like,
I guess it has only been a week.
Yeah.
Well, then how about?
I mean, it has, though. It's funny you ask that, because I have been inspired, but I'm wondering, like, where you're coming from in that question.
Maybe inspiration's the wrong question, but more so, what are some realizations that you've come to directly after that? I know it's only been a week, but
I don't think inspiration is the wrong word. I would say searching maybe is, at least for me, because I
appreciate that.
Sorry?
Yeah. Thank you, man.
Well, no, because I'm just saying it's a matter of perspective. I'm not saying you use the wrong word. I'm just saying, that's why I said for me.
Yeah.
In there. You know, because in all honesty, like, like coming here, I'm glad we scheduled this the way we did, because for me, like, the routine, like, after a show is, and I know I have a lot of friends that are like this. We joke about the post-show depression, where you just sink after a show and just wallow in it for a bit. And this has been the best way, because it was like immediately after, came out here, and I've had no time, like, too much idle time. You know, we came here, did things. We've been driving around LA, and then it's a big city. And I think those are all the best things, because I've realized that's really what inspires me, is people. As much as I don't really like people, I love people in a weird way. So.
Where does that come from, though? Like, why do you say you don't really like people?
People are terrible. We're terrible. I have a love-hate relationship with humanity.
Yeah. But you're also fascinated by people.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of times like Jane Goodall or something, like I'm a people watcher. Or I mean, I don't know, maybe that's how I used to feel. I'm starting to love people a little bit more. But just, I think of it like, because it's that contrast, because you spend, it's like when you're working on a body of work and you isolate yourself and it's like any working thing and you're working. And then it's easy to feel like you're on that lone island, and then just to like come out and see everything operating again it's I don't know, it's just inspiring to see people doing things.
Yeah.
See, it's that contrast to being alone in the studio.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a certain release that there's a sort of tension that's being released when you
absolutely
yeah when you finish a project and then you go on to the next thing.
Yeah. Oh, I thought I had actually when we're talking about that, and I was saying how I don't really like people. But
that's right.
One thing that occurred to me, and it's recently, it actually occurred to me when I was in Paris, that as much as I don't, like I said, this love-hate relationship, I found that like and this, I don't know how to word it, I do, because I realize how much my work is about people.
Yeah.
Oh, this is the thought I had. If people talk this like the desert island challenge thing, like what are the 5 records you'd bring to a desert island? Like I always wondered, and I think actually somebody asked Chuck Close this once, like, would you still be an artist if you were on a desert island? Like you're on a boat, the boat sank, you're the only survivor, you go to an island. Would you still make art? Implying that like they're wondering like, is art this thing that's just inside you and it just comes out? And I think some people maybe are like that. I know I'm definitely not. Mine is a dialogue, and so I need people in order for me to work, and not just as like somebody to sit. Like that's actually what inspires me is other people, and it's my fascination. It may be my dislike. But yeah, if I was alone, like it is the end of the world and it's only me, I wouldn't make anything. I'd just sit and eat, I think.
That is actually a really interesting question, because okay, so then what did Chuck Close say?
His was more practical of an answer. He said, of course not. He's like, I would spend too much time looking for food and this and that. So he had a very pragmatic way of looking at it. But I think if I remember in the end, he did kind of tie it around to that too, being like that art is more of a luxury. He doesn't have this like compulsion inside. He's not, somebody's like constantly creating. It's just what he does based off his reaction to everybody around him.
Yeah.
Do you think you would
create art if
the only person on
if
the
I was
planet?
the only person?
Yeah.
Well, I create different kind of art than you do, which requires, I mean, my primary focus has been photography, so that would be, I mean, I might still photograph things.
Yeah, but it could be. I mean, I think that the implication of the question is like,
I certainly wouldn't do a podcast.
That'd be pretty boring.
I just constantly critique my own thoughts.
Recording yourself talking to yourself. But I think again, the implication of the question is like, is art making to your art practice? Is it something that's reverberated from your surroundings, or is it something that comes from like a compulsion deep inside you? So it wouldn't have to be photography. If you didn't have the camera, you'd find another way, to compulsively make something. You'd be making sandcastles all the time or something.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think it's romantic, and a lot of people want to say that, like, yeah, I'm a creative.
Well, it also has questions about the ego too.
Yeah.
Because it's like what is the reason for people to create? Is it so that you get some sort of attention for creating it? Is it because, like you were saying, a compulsion to create? I think I would still be creative. I would still come up with, different ways to create weapons or.
But see that again, though, as funny as that is, that's practical. But
is that not an artwork? Is that not artwork?
Okay, now we're getting into art theory.
Yeah.
This is not where I thought it would go. I was not prepared for this type of mental gymnastics.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. But
I mean, no one's critiquing my craftsmanship though at that point.
So you'd be making shitty weapons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or I can be like Mandy and just, construct some sort of.
All of a sudden, you have something to forge
Yeah, exactly.
a heavy metal blade.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, let's talk about movies. No, let's talk about Paris. Come on, man. You got to ask me about Paris.
Oh, I was going to ask you about Paris. I was going to ask you about Paris because you were like, why don't you ask me about Paris? And now I feel compelled to ask you about Paris. I'm just kidding. But yeah, no. Yeah, tell me about your experiences in Paris. Like what... That's
such a weak way to ask.
Yeah. But yeah.
I'm joking, by the way. We're not talking about that.
Your what's the cheese like? Tell me about the cheese, man.
Tastes better than it smells.
Yeah.
Far better.
Okay, so what made you want to move to Paris in the first place?
I didn't want to. I moved for my girlfriend. She lives in Paris. She's born and raised. And I don't know how the decision came about. Because we kind of tossed like living here, but there was her visa ran out. So it made more sense for me to go there. But I think also the political climate here is a little bit of a deciding factor.
But okay, so you didn't want to move there, but
it's not that I didn't want to. It's just that it wasn't like, one day I was like, man, I think I'm going to go to Paris.
Yeah.
It was a relationship first, and then we had to figure out, because she had just moved back to Paris. So she wanted to come here, or do I want to go there? So it was more that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there are times where we challenge ourselves and force ourselves into different situations and try to adapt in those situations. Do you think that was the case for you moving to Paris?
I'm sure it played a part. I mean, again, there's no denying it. The biggest role was because of the relationship, if we wanted to further it. But yeah, I think part of it's challenging. Part of it was being tired of the way things were here, the political climate. And then I think too, like selfishly, like I have to admit, like from the art perspective, I felt like I needed something different, something more inspiring. I wanted to change. And for me, like changing art has to come from the outside. Again, it's like this feeding off environment.
Yeah.
I can't just do it in my head like some people can. So it's, I think all of those things. Yeah.
Yeah. From
an art standpoint, it's been like really a breath of fresh air for a multitude of reasons. One which I already stated when I was like, I don't want to talk about social media. I remember actually when we did our first podcast, that was a lot of the talk was social media. And in my experience there, when people that I've met, there's very little, social media plays very little in a little role in their daily lives, and especially with artists. There's not a lot of that going on. And that was my first experience there when like the studio we're at, when I was meeting the other artists in there and we'd have lunch together. It was just talking about art, and food, of course, because it's Paris. And I realized I hadn't had those kind of conversations in a really long time. Being out here, it's, everybody's talking about hacking algorithms and their follower count and their hashtags and all that shit. So it's nice to get back to just art talk. And then I think that kind of set the stage for everything else that was to come. It's just a very vibrant art culture. A lot of artists, everybody's really cool. Yeah, it's been reinvigorating, I think.
Yeah, I mean, talking about social media, I think I'm actually surprised that even 4 years ago that conversation still holds relevant. I mean, I guess not that surprised, but maybe in 10 years it'll be a totally different conversation, and
hopefully
it'll completely date, we'll talk about Instagram and
like
Facebook and whatnot.
talking about MySpace.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It'll be completely irrelevant.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully it won't be such a cause of concern.
Yeah, I don't think that'll be because in a way, I mean, you look at it, that's not the issue. The issue is artists, well, people trying to get attention, artists trying to get noticed,
Exactly.
all those things. So that is going to be the core problem always. It's just whatever the platform is what we'll probably argue about.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I hope so. So, but it's not a big thing there, and that's just been fantastic.
Yeah.
So the way art there is just so deep in the culture. It's so very palpable. Like anywhere you go, the architecture, the food is art. Everything is art, and it's refreshing. Just have nice, honest conversations. Everything's about socializing. Not social network.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that. I mean, other than my relationship was just what sold me. Like, okay, this is the right place to be.
Yeah. Do you have any advice for artists or creatives?
With regards to what? That's a broad question.
I know it's a broad question. Let's talk macro perspective.
You mean in general?
Yeah, I guess maybe some general advice for artists, people that are taking your video course that's going to be coming out.
Good plug.
Maybe.
Good plug.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't see. That's hard because I don't know. Like, if you're working like, some good freelance photography job, then the advice wouldn't apply. You know what I mean? So I don't know what to say to creatives. To painters, that would be easier, I think.
Maybe, okay, so maybe in terms of like continuing the creative path.
Oh, yeah, that's easier. And yeah, since I struggle with that one all the time, I don't know. I guess what I've learned is maybe you can have goals, but don't write a narrative for yourself. Everybody's got a different, it sounds cliche to say journey through it, but it's true. And really think long and hard about what your goals are, because at the end of the day, you have to, and maybe for some people this is a natural thing, but it's a life commitment. I feel like a lot of people, and I've been guilty of it a time or two, think like, it's like plotting out a course. By this year I'm going to have this achieved, and then I'll be in this gallery or this many galleries by this time. And that's just not the case. You got to realize that you're first and foremost just making art. It's a lifestyle, that you're going to have to adapt to. And I think talent doesn't matter as much as grit. I think that's what makes the big difference. So that would be my advice. Was that advice, or did I
guess so.
Did I just complain?
That's advice. Yeah. Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
I mean, I agree with you about the grit part.
Yeah, for sure.
Adaptability and grit, and adaptability, especially being in a time that everything changes so quickly, and figuring out how to still do what you want to do, but also figuring out ways to change.
Yeah.
Whether it's your perspective or whether it's medium or whatever it may be.
Yeah, I think I don't know if this is tangential, but I this is what I think of, like people that like are younger getting into this. Now I have to talk about social media, unfortunately. So what was I listening to? I was listening to something recently. Some guy talking, he's like a YouTuber, and he was saying he'd been invited to these schools to talk to kids, because now when they're doing teaching kids about vocations and asking like, what do you want to do in life? A lot of kids now are saying like being a YouTube star, that's taken over like being a rock star. And I feel like that happens in art too with regards to social media, because they see artists, whatever on social media, and they've got whatever amount of followers, and then they're posting shows and they're traveling, and that's their idea. And I think that's a very dangerous way to approach it. So you really have to look at what it is that is involved with what it is you want to do. So if you want to be a painter, be well versed in what that lifestyle is, and in the pros and the cons, and really, I think they get the wrong idea that like these people are just, it's easy, you put your art on social media and then you sell it and then you make money and you just make more. And it's especially that with this arena of art is changing so rapidly. It changes all the time. It's not the same as it was 2 years ago, and it's going to be vastly different in 2 years from now. Mm-hmm. So you have to be, I think that kind of goes into what you're saying about adaptability.
Yeah.
But yeah, just being very aware.
Yeah, surveying
very
and
realistic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Surveying and understanding the landscape.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So should we go into movies?
Let's go into movies, man. Go.
Favorite comedy?
We never answered that one, huh? Damn, that's a tough one. Pass.
Putting you on the spot. Pass. Favorite horror movie? In the past, favorite contemporary horror movie?
Well, define contemporary. What's
contemporary. Let's say.
What's the parameters there?
Let's see. Oh wait. Does someone have a dictionary? Let's see.
No. What are you defining the parameters?
Let's say 10 years, 10, 15 years. How about that?
10, 15 years. Mandy.
Really? Mandy.
Yeah. What's hard for me to look past the last 10 years?
5 years. How about that?
It's still Mandy.
Okay.
Yeah, I think. Doing a quick. Yeah, that or Hereditary. I think definitely my two favorites.
What about action film?
Are we using the same parameters? Contemporary? Because I'll still say Commando. Get to the chopper.
Yeah, 5 or 10 years, so that we can.
Oh, I think Commando's older than that.
Oh yeah, it is.
Alien.
Alien's definitely older than that.
Yeah, that was the running joke last night. Alien took all the categories in her own.
Yeah, I know.
Version of the Oscars.
Yeah. What would our own version of the Oscars be called?
I don't know. What was the name of that band last night? We can name it after them. What were they called?
Pony? Something Pony?
Pony Boner or something?
Pony Boner. The Pony Boner Awards.
I don't remember their called.
That'd be an interesting. That'd be an interesting statue.
Paints a gross picture. What category of movies were you talking about?
Sorry. Anyways, I veered off into the Pony Boner.
Never veer into the Pony Boner.
Action movies.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
I don't know. Has there really been any good ones in the last 5-10 years?
I don't know.
This is like a genre I don't really.
You're supposed to have the answers.
Much. Oh, that's right. Yeah, I can't think of any good ones.
Okay, best drama. 10 years.
Best drama in 10 years. I don't think I know what constitutes a drama. I'll just. I
mean, whatever you would think that a drama would constitute. I just turned around.
I don't watch dramas. I don't know. I haven't seen a good drama since Titanic. I'm just kidding. I've never seen Titanic. I don't think I've watched many dramas.
Really?
Or comedies for that matter.
I doubt that.
No, really. 'Cause I don't really like dramas. It's too dramatic. I don't like emotions. I just want action and blood.
Well, you like P.T. Anderson, don't you?
P.T. Anderson? I like Wes Anderson.
Two different Andersons.
I know.
You don't like P.T. Anderson?
What has P.T. Anderson done?
Paul Thomas Anderson. Boogie Nights.
Oh, okay. That's a horror movie. I do like P.T. Anderson.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was drawing a blank. What else?
Phantom Thread.
I didn't like Phantom Thread. I hated that movie.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
I felt it was like your
shallow and
mom's
pedantic.
BDSM. That's what I felt like it was. It was like a way to like sneak in a little like, oh, isn't this edgy? He likes to be sick. Like that was the one, right? Where with Daniel Day-Lewis. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and she was poisoning him or something.
Yeah,
and then it made him happy. He was getting off on it. Yeah, it was like your mom's BDSM. I just like it was stupid.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
didn't like it at
okay.
all. Sorry.
That's fine.
And unpopular opinion, I don't like Daniel Day-Lewis.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think he overacts.
Really?
Yeah, I do. In my humble opinion, IMHO.
Okay. You don't think he played a good Lincoln?
No.
I mean, Daniel Day listens to this podcast.
I'm sure he does. But how would you know?
This is where he gets all his inspiration.
Here's the thing, man. How do you know if he played a good Lincoln? Come on. You never seen Lincoln?
How do you know?
Well, I've never seen Lincoln, so I don't know if he's played a good Lincoln.
How do you know if I've never seen Lincoln?
He thinks Lincoln would be, because you don't have a time travel machine.
How do you know that I don't have time travel?
That's a good point. It's like, damn, you got me. Checkmate. Yeah, yeah. Oh,
speaking of time travel machines.
yeah, Back to the Future.
Yes.
Really? We're gonna go there?
Oh, I loved Back to the Future. You love Back to the Future.
I love it. It's one of my favorite movies. Back
Yeah.
to the Future 1. I like them all 3.
Yeah.
1, 2, and 3. But didn't you 2? You said 2 is your favorite.
Yeah.
Is that you?
2 is my favorite.
Why?
I don't know. I guess it brings me back to that feeling of watching the second version or the sequel, and really liking it. But I can't really give like a solid answer, like a reason why.
Yeah. Okay, so
It's a nostalgic thing.
Yeah, it had nothing to do with the story.
Yeah, it's more of a nostalgic thing. Yeah, for me. And Back to the Future in general, I think, is more of a nostalgic thing for me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Biff is kind of like Donald Trump in a way. In the second one. Now that I think about it.
Yeah.
A lot of Trump to him.
Maybe not so much in the second one. I think more so in the first one. Oh, yeah.
No,
in
because he
the
owns
second
the
one.
Vegas
That's right.
hotel.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Did you know he was a painter? He is a painter. Is that
Really?
guy still alive? I can't even remember his real name. Yeah, he's a painter.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, pretty good. He does like landscapes.
Hmm.
Man, I can't remember the guy's name now. It's really bothering me. But yeah, in his business card, it's really funny because everybody would always ask him, like, he had the list of questions that people always ask him. And then he had them in order, like 1, yes, I'm the guy who played Biff. 2, da-da-da-da-da. And then at the end of it, it would be, I'm also a painter. And he would have his website on it.
Interesting.
To give out to people.
Huh. No idea.
Yeah. And so is Martin Mull. I don't know if you... Martin Mull was in... was it All in the Family?
Hmm.
He's a really good painter.
Yeah. Have you seen David Lynch's paintings?
Yeah. I was just wondering if I should really say what I feel about. I don't like him.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the
But
fact
it's
that
him.
he does them.
Yeah,
I like some of them.
Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I have a weird thing about David Lynch.
Well, I think you have a weird thing about naive painters as well.
No, I love naive painters. This is my favorite kind of paintings.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
That unmarred innocence, I think, really, like, I love children's art. And why the argument too to me when people look at it and say my kid could do that, like, that means nothing to me.
Yeah.
Because I think there's an innocence that gets transmitted through that.
100%.
Yeah, it's really, I think, relatable in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you see too much art. Like, what I think the majority of art that you look at that you may not like is you'll see pandering, or you'll see something that's too contrived, or there's too much, like, trying too hard in one way or another, and it's usually informed by something else. You know, and sometimes it's really evident. But with naive art, you don't really see a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
You know. So
Yeah.
gotcha. You thought you had me there, son.
I mean, I also like naive art too for that same reason, because it seems more pure and a lot less filtered, you know, through like traditional means or through institutional forms of learning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's that sort of, like what you're saying, is relatability and sort of innocence to it. I feel like there's a lot of artists that go through traditional forms of learning and then start to digress into more of a, not necessarily more naive approach, but tries to digress and break down the process into something that is more soulful.
Yeah, and sometimes I think they think that means, like, disregarding technical aspects that you've learned. You know, like what's like that jazz adage of, like, learning the scales and then forgetting about them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like in that vein.
Yeah.
But even some art. I mean, one of the greatest things I've seen in Paris was the Picasso Museum, and he's a great example of that. He was very proficient technically, and then I think, you know, they said that's like the quote he said, like oh man, I can't remember that, we're on the spot. Something about trying to paint like a child or something like that. And people kind of just took that as the surface thing, that he was technically trying to paint like a child, but he was really kind of alluding to that innocence and purity. And at the Picasso Museum in Paris, they have, I mean, it's the largest collection I've ever seen, and stuff that I'd never seen in books. And so you get to see, they have some of his childhood paintings in there that are technically pretty sound, and then how he just dives into experimentation and playfulness and humor, even a lot of humor in his work.
Yeah.
And then just very like naive and primitive forms.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really, really beautiful and really inspiring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel like even the video workshop's called deconstructing the portrait, or the deconstructive portrait. Is that right?
I don't know. You came up with it.
I came up with it?
Yeah, you did.
Did I really?
Yeah, I didn't do that.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, you did.
I came up with it?
Yeah.
Oh, I guess I just didn't remember that.
You tell me.
Okay, well. Well, then we'll disregard that question.
I think, to be fair, you took it out of something that I wrote. I didn't have a title, but I wrote some things like about the course, and then you took, I think, that snippet out of there.
Oh, okay.
Call it
That sounds like something I would do.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
And it's what you did.
I'm just remixing your ideas.
But anyways, what's your question?
I guess I was going to ask, we're talking about understanding technique and then more of a naive approach. Mm-hmm. Where do you think you fall in between those two? Or what's your take on that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't think I've ever been asked. I think it's somewhere in between. I'm not after anything like a naive approach, but I'm trying to break away from technical rigidity. So it's not wrong to say deconstructed. It is breaking down forms and different ways to approach and apply forms, but it's still from an informed perspective, which I'm trying to lose more and more. But I think it just takes time.
It's that Patrick Graham thing that I was telling you about.
What was that? What was the Patrick Graham thing? Oh, yeah. Okay, that conversation. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's just something that I guess too is because you want it to be organic, and now that reminded me what you were saying about Patrick Graham. It shouldn't be a forced thing. It should be something very organic, probably based on life experiences or something like that.
Yeah.
I think it's the most honest approach. Yes.
Cool. Well, thanks for doing this, man. I appreciate you coming here and flying out all the way out here for this podcast.
Thanks for the ticket, buddy.
Yeah.
It was my pleasure.
Yeah. All right, man.
I guess all that done?
I guess that's done. Yeah.
All right.
All right.